Okay, let's just see here. 1, 2, 1. Okay, that's good. So, I'm just going to go through editing down a midday moment quickly, and what it entails. So, the first process for me is always to just move my WhatsApp here. Okay, the first process is to always just make sure the raw files exist in the right places in your Finder, or on the hard drive or server or whatever you're using. So in this case, I have a hard drive attached here that's called local media number 2, and inside that I've got year breakdowns, which is how we do it. So you can see in 2019 there's that, and 2020 there's that. So one time in 2020, I will have the event that we're recording, and in this case, it's Midday Moments. And then this is the structure of all files. So you'll see Sanctuary's got the power of words, it's got digital assets, edits, FCPX, raw, so on. So in this one, I just don't have an FCPX folder, but there's the Final Cut Pro library there, and I'll get into that now. I've got digital assets, so there isn't really anything significant for Midday Moments. I don't have thumbnails or anything like that. These are edited files, so I've got audio, and I mean these can all go into a file called video, like so. And yeah, so here's the audio and here's the video. And then I've got raw. So raw has audio and video, and then it has the day the footage was captured or the content was captured. So in this case, we have the 20th of March 2020. You'll just notice the date structure here. Excuse me, it starts with the year, goes into month, and then the day. That's intentional. So that for filing purposes, it always has January at the top and December at the bottom, and then days, so it's always chronological. And then you'll see in the audio I have the raw files, which are named according to the filing or the production schedule, and then I have the video, and then we have the various cameras that were used, and then the raw files from those particular cameras, which you can see here. That's the raw files. So for example, I'm editing down tomorrow's episode, which is going to be the 17th of April, which is Friday. And you'll see here we recorded this footage yesterday, so that was the 15th of April, which is a Wednesday. And here's the files. Obviously, the audio is named according to the production schedule, and you'll see here's the cameras 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those cameras don't have actual names, but that's not a problem. And what I'll often do is I'll just pop open this, and I'll go and just check the footage, and I'll just skim through to the clapper quickly and make sure that everything is correct here. So you can see, if I just pause it, you can see it's episode 77 for the 17th, which according to this is tomorrow, so that is correct. And I'll close that down. I'll go to camera 2, and this process happens very fast. I'll quickly jump ahead. There it is there, 77 for the 17th of April. Perfect. And then you can also receive the date it was recorded. Camera 3, this is why I'm a bit of a stickler for the clapper. There you get a glimpse of it too. And camera 4, I'm not too particular about where I put what footage into what folder, as long as 1 and 2 are the main cameras, 1 and 2. There's the clapper board again, you can see. Obviously it's not focused on because Conrad's prepping for camera 2. For when we hit action, but there you can see everything anyway. Okay, so that's that, and then the audio too, I'll just quickly jump into the audio and I'll pull it up and I'll let it play out. I'm not sure.
All right. 7.
Look where.
Pastor Sharon, Midday Moment, episode 77, take 1.
I'm not sure if you're hearing anything. Let me just check. Let me just switch this quickly. Okay, let's just play this again. There we go. You should hear this now.
Then of gold that perishes, though it be tried with fire, might
Okay,
be
there we
found
go.
unto praise it.
So I check the audio, and then I make sure all the raw footage exists in the correct places, because once you've created the stuff in Final Cut Pro, you can't. Once you've created the libraries, we leave the files in place when we create the stuff in Final Cut Pro, that you can't move the stuff around in your Finder, because otherwise it will delink. It won't link up in Final Cut. So once that's all done in Finder, I'll jump over to Final Cut Pro. And what I do in Final Cut Pro, the process for Final Cut Pro, is to create a a library. So the first thing you'll do is create a library, which is file new library, and what you'll do is you'll locate that folder. So I'm going to go to 2020, and it'll be Midday Moments. So I'll just find Midday Moments. And you'll see I've already got one here, but what I'll do is I'll rename this to the name of the thing that we're currently recording, and I'll let this sit inside this folder over here. I'm not going to create it now. Once that's created, it will create a thing like this, and it will also create an event by default for you, which will have the date of, it will create a date for when, like the date you created the library and whatever. It looks like Final Cut Pro has to have a library, an event in the library for a library to exist. The next process I do is I'll go, and now I'm actually going to start doing this because I am going to edit down tomorrow's, is I'll create a new event. So you can either go File, New, and go to Event, or you can right click here and say Event, or you can use Option N. So no, not that, Option N, and this pulls up a new event. And so the event name is going to be based on what we're currently, the date you're editing for. So you can see here on the left hand side I have all of the dates that I've edited. So I'm just going to go and find out what date I'm editing for. I know it, but I'm going to do it anyway on the production schedule. So I'll hop over to the production schedule, and over here I'm editing tomorrow's session, which I know is the 17th of April, tomorrow, and it's midday. So here it is here, it's the 17th. So this is going to be the name of this particular event. So obviously this one is closely named to that, so I'm just going to change the 6 out to 7, and I'm going to say okay, and now it's created an event down here. Immediately after that, I actually need a project that I'm going to work in before I even import the footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project, which you can right click and say new project, or you can use Command N, or you can go File, New Project. I use Command N because I'm faster, it's just faster. And then I'll hop back to the digital services production schedule, and I will take this file name as my project name. So I'm just click on it and Command C, just confirm that I'm in the right place. I'm like double checking all the time, triple checking, and then I hop back over to Final Cut Pro and I paste it in there. And I just make sure that this should be 1080p HD, 1920 by 1080. The frame rate must be 25, and the audio must be stereo with 48K. And Apple ProRes is perfect, not automatic, and starting time code should be 000. I then say okay. Inside here now, it will pull up this, and as you may know, now have the event. The next process is I need to import footage. So this one in particular, you can either go to this little down arrow here, but I always just go File, Import Media. A Command I is a thing too, I guess. And so now this is the easy part. So now I need to go to the hard drive where I've put the raw footage. So I'll come to Media 2, and let me just close the door here. Stealth up here. A nuisance. I'm not stopping the recording. I'm flying through this. So I'll go straight to Midday Moments, and I'll go to the raw footage. And now I know the day that we recorded the footage, because theoretically, which it doesn't at the moment, it should exist on this footage. So actually, if I just go here, 2020 -04-15, that's when we recorded the footage, and there it is. Obviously this thing's not lining it up properly, but it should label it like that. So then what I'll do is I'll know that it was recorded on the 15th, so I'll drop down the 2 folders that I need from, and I'll drop down all the cameras. And the reason and that's all intentional, because I'm going to check the footage again before I actually put it into the particular, before I actually import it. So once again, I'll open the file, and this is cool because this thing brings up the clapper board. So here I'm pretty sure that this is the clapper, I guess, or this one.
Force or faith?
Nope, that's Pastor Sharon talking.
One.
There's the clapper. So I know just before the clapper, Conrad, whoever's doing the clapper talk, so I'll go and listen to it.
Okay. Pastor Sharon, Midday Moment, episode 77.
Great, I know that's correct because we were doing episode 77 because I saw it when I pulled it into the dictionary. And so I, just as a note here, I have add to existing events, so it's adding this more media to the existing event, and I don't have it on copy to library. We leave the files in place. That is imperative. So the files are leaving in place. I don't do anything with keywords. It's not necessary to do anything with the audio. Don't create media. Don't need anything like that, and we don't do any of that either. It's just to make sure that the files are left in place. I also have this unchecked, close window after starting import. So I don't want this window to close when I start the import. That's not important for me because I've got more to import. I just want to know that the file that I have selected there, when I click import, I know that the import has already happened. Then I go onto the footage here, and I'll just skim like this, and I'll look for Conrad, and I can see here, I mean, it's going to be very small for you, but if I make this bigger, I can see there that it says 77, so I know that that's correct. And actually, I know that all this footage is correct, but I'll check it again. So there's 77, import. I mean, you don't want to make a mistake here and then have to do relinking and all of that. There's Conrad, 77, import. And so I look for it again here, 77, done, import. So now all of our footage exists. That's that. So we have the project, and now we have the raw footage. Now I go and I select all the footage, and I create a new multicam clip. Right click, new multicam clip. And this naming doesn't matter. Anything, I just call it Friday multicam or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. And then I think it would be a good part for you to pause here and actually see what this window says. But starting time code is 0. Use audio for synchronization should be checked. Angle assembly is camera angle. There's third. I wouldn't dare not. This is a working process for us. Angle clip ordering automatic. I mean, you could, if we had time code, that would work, but we're not doing that. It's just automatic. That's fine. Or angle synchronization based on the first clip. So it uses the first clip in this list over here, and it links all those others up to that. Blah blah blah. Again, 1080p HD, 1920 by 25. Audio is automatic, that's fine, and ProRes, so that's cool. So now I created, it's going to do its thing, it's quite quick, and now I double click on here. So that's because this is the multicam. This doesn't matter anymore, and neither does this, for now. And this is the multicam. So now you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, if I click over here, you have the audio. So I just do some quick reordering here. So I put the audio, I grab the audio and I put it at the bottom. I'm talking fast because you can pause at any time here. And then I untick this audio because I don't want this audio to be the one that I hear in the multicam. I only want to hear this audio. And so now when I play through, you'll hear.
Also, because
you'll hear the good audio. You're not going to hear, like, if I tick this and put this is what you hear. Let's just skip forward a bit. I mean, you can't even hear anything, so I don't even use that. I use this one.
Priceless.
Okay, and so now I can see,
Cherished,
I just check for
treasured,
synchronization, and I can
prized.
immediately see that actually everything is all synced already.
Faith.
So that's the multi-camming now. Because we're doing Midday Moments with Pastor Sharon, I actually don't have LUTs for her in particular, so I'm going to actually go through the grading process with you quickly. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was, this is important, is that I actually put this camera at the top, followed by camera 2, and then I have these two guys just sitting at the bottom. So the process is that camera 1 is always in the top left, and it's always on the number 1 on my keyboard for when I'm switching between angles when we play through later. And then camera 2 is there, and then 3 and 4. And so what I'll do is I'll actually grade the close angle. So I'm just going to put this one on here. And I'll find a good frame that has, like, you know, Pastor Sharon's eyes open. Something, let's just see. you can see the light in her eyes. So I'm looking at the right hand side screen now. I would like her hands in, because that's a component that I got to consider in my grading. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to use this one. Okay, so the first thing I do is on the left screen is I bring up the corrections panel. I'm going to just make this smaller because I don't need to see this thing at the moment. I do need to see the grading panel. And the first thing that I'll do is I'll open a color wheel. So I'll click on there and add a wheels. And what I'll do is I'll actually check the temperature of the footage. So just make sure that it's not too red or blue, and actually just get it into a space that looks correct. So our white balance is pretty good here, and maybe I'll just pop it up a little bit because that could be considered too cool. Actually, I think I like it where it is. I'm not going to cool it down any because that looks a bit weird, just a bit pink there. So I'll just, and I'm not looking at the numbers here, just so we're clear, I'm looking at the face. And I'll add, you might think that her face is not as tanned as it usually is. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it where it is actually. Then tint operates with greens and magentas. So you'll see green, magenta, and that's just like Pastor John, because Pastor John's got quite a pink skin tone. I often find myself pushing this slightly towards the green area. And just let me just take these angles away to make this bigger. 200%. I find myself moving the green, giving him a bit of green just to give it room. But Pastor Sharon doesn't have that issue, and so sometimes I'll add pink or some magenta because it's a little bit more flattering, a little bit of a pink tone in the skin. But yeah, and I'm also considering the reds in the background and stuff, but because that's quite a dramatically lit scene, I'll let that just live the way it is. And then that's it that I'll do there. There's a couple of things here. I mean, maybe if you wanted to, you could boost the shadows or drop the shadows. And so in this instance, I'm actually not going to do that here, but I might just drop it ever so slightly. You can see if I drop this down here, you can see it's just on 1. It's like next to nothing. Midtones, yeah, I mean, this is particularly for like stuff that exists in the middle of the histogram. If you don't know what a histogram is, just pull it up in Google and check it out. But this is going to brighten like most of the subject in this instance. Yeah, it will inevitably lighten the background. You can actually see the plugs there. So obviously that's just ridiculous. No one's going to do that. But yeah, if I feel like the skin needs some bumping, I'm going to do that. But I mean, maybe here, let's just see how much I've added. It's probably 1 again. Yeah, it's plus 1. Plus 0.1. That's what I've done. And this one I've actually dropped it by 0.02. Highlights is going to be like stuff like her hair. You can see that goes quite quickly. The problem with that is that it gets quite blown out quite quickly. So if I open the histogram, the video scopes, you'll notice that if I bump this, there's sharp spikes. I don't know if you can see them, that they get blown out quite quickly. So yeah, I mean, fortunately we're not blowing out the whole shot here. So, and I'm going to add contrast later, which will bump the highlights anyway. Okay, let me just drop this back down to 100% so everything fits in here. The other thing that is important is to just check coloring within these kinds of things. So this is more like a global edit. So this I'm just making sure that the frame is balanced. I'll get into the nitpicky stuff of stuff later. So this particular slide is going to increase, like you can see, this one is like doing quite a lot for the saturation. Just bring this back. And then the midtones, the same is going to apply. Like this one, you can see this one works a lot on the face. And so I might come back to this one at the end. But what I'll do here is I'll actually just give her face a little bit more color. Just a little bit more color so that when we get deeper into the grade, that I have more to work with. And then highlights, that's going to color the hair in particular, and stuff like that. And so maybe I'll give that a bit just to bring her hair back to its natural state. And so that's just like getting the frame to a workable position. And so you'll notice, actually, if I take these video scopes away, you'll notice that actually this isn't like a massive change, but it is something. So it just gives a little bit of contrast, brings back some of the color, and gives us a working loop. Then we'll go into hue and saturation curves. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm selecting a hue versus hue. I'm selecting the eyedropper tool, and I'm going with the eyedropper tool, and I'm selecting somewhere on her skin. It then pulls up these dots here, and what this does is actually going to change the color of that particular hue that I selected. And so this is good if you're wanting to add a particular kind of color to someone. So Pastor John I uses a lot because he's pink, and so I'll tan him up a bit. But with Pastor Sharon, obviously she's maked up and stuff, and so everything, her colors on her face are quite natural. I'll then go to hue versus saturation. So this is going to select a particular hue, which is a type of color, and then it's going to increase the saturation on that hue. So you can see now, if I drag this up and down, now we're getting color in Pastor Sharon's face that is more appropriate. But obviously, that hue is also selecting like the red in the background, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. If I want to take that away, I just drag this slider in from this side, and now those reds aren't affected, but it's still giving her face the saturation that we need. Okay, so that's quite a dramatic one that you can see. And then you'll see that you have hue versus luma. So this one would be like if the face isn't bright enough, we would brighten the face with this. Or if we want it darker, I mean that's obviously just insane. We're not going to do any of that because her face is correctly exposed. And then orange versus saturation, and this is particularly for skin tones. So I see that the hue has added something there. So like if I just wanted to add hue just to Pastor Sharon's face, I mean saturation just to Pastor Sharon's face, and it's a good time to actually bring up the video scopes here, and you can see that on the bottom vector scope here, you can actually see that Pastor Sharon, this in particular here, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, you should watch this on a big screen, but you'll see that I can see that her skin tones exist there. This line that goes out here is actually like the ideal skin tone range. So, for example, if I go up to this one, you'll actually notice that you can adjust like where her skin tones sit. And if I did hue versus hue now and put this on here, I can actually shift that. Look on the vector scope. I can shift where that is. So you can see this is going to show you the perfect skin tone. The skin tone exists on that line. You want to get that. You can actually see it looks like skin tone. That's the red that's on the back of the stage. You want to get it onto that line. Not onto it, but you want to get it quite close. And so now, if I just take this away with Command 7 and put this on 200, this is quite a dramatic grade because this is a graded for her skin. So now you can actually see I brought life back to her skin. It looks natural. Her hands, the reds are popping a bit in the background, and so that's that done. I then will go in and add curves, okay? And all I do in curves is I just add an S curve, which is 3 dots like this, and I just drop the contrast a bit. It's very small. It's not like, you're not going to, because this is very aggressive. And I'll just add, well, let's say this. Let's do this quickly. This is going to be, I'm going to add contrast just for her face, okay? So I'm going to do a bit of an S curve like that. You call it an S curve because this actually does like that, like an S shape. But I'm just going to add contrast on her face. So once I've added, I'll do this based on what I'm liking in her face, the look of her face, on her hair, that kind of thing. Like it's making her hair pop now. Like that's too much contrast on her face, obviously. But I mean, you don't want it to be completely flat. You want her face to have a little bit of depth and contrast. So I'll just drop this off a little bit, bump this one up a bit, and now this has depth. Her face has depth. But I don't want that to be the overarching thing, although it doesn't look bad now. But what I'll do is I'll come in and add a color mask. So I'll just click color mask, and then you come over to this screen, and now it's got an eyedropper. You click and hold, and you just you drag up, and it increases the size of the circle, and so now it's making a mask based on only those colors you selected. You can hold shift if you need to add more, like her hair there, and I'm just now, you can see that the mask only exists on her face. So this particular adjustment we're doing here, only, you can see it's only working on her face, and now it's more natural looking. There's dynamics on her face, there's like shadows, the shadows are more pronounced, it just looks natural. So that's color curves there. I then go to the color board, and what I'll do is I'll actually go into saturation up here, and I'll actually remove some saturation from the shadows, just a small amount, so that the reds aren't like too distracting from her face, and I'll add some in the highlights, and this you can see is actually bringing back the blondness in her hair and so on. And then that is basically that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll maybe add like another color wheels as a final touch, but for me, I'm quite happy with the shot. Obviously we're looking at it at 200%, which no one watches it at. You watch it at 100%, and so that's a good looking shot. And I can show you that if I remove all the effects, that's before, looks a bit alien-y, and that's after, and that's a really nice looking shot. It's got distinction between the background, the foreground, and you can, if you wanted to, you could do a grade for the background. I mean, you could probably go into, you could create a new color board, or you could create color wheels, or whatever the case may be. Here we could go into the shadows, and we could bump this, and could probably make them more, I don't know, more red or less red, or whatever the case may be. If we feel like they're too overpowering, we could make them a bit darker like this, and then obviously that's affecting the whole image. So what you might want to do is maybe come in here and add a color mask, and that's a shape mask. Don't do that. I mean, you can, sorry, add a color mask, come on here and just select the red, right? And so there you've got like the background is a little bit better now. I mean, I'm not going to do that for this instance. I'm just going to delete it. You can click on it and click delete. But so yeah, that's our grade for that one. Once I've done that, that's that one done. I'll then go, and that's actually the grade for all the cameras, because theoretically all the cameras are balanced. So I'll just click on this clip, push Command C, go to the next clip and click on it. So I'm just going to make this bigger again for you to see. I'm going to click on that one then, and then I'm going to say Edit, Paste Attributes. That will bring up this window, and this will show you color wheels, hue and saturation curves, color board. Those are the things that we did now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say Paste, and actually what that's going to do, it's going to paste it onto this particular scene now. And so actually now this scene has that grading, and so this is the scene without that grading, and so you can see she looks more human, not so flat anymore. The reds in the background are more red, the lights don't hit your eyes as much, because what I've done is I've created a general grade that is actually good for all the cameras, and it's adjusted for the scene. This doesn't work all the time. These ones you're going to see in quite particular. Obviously, I remember that I've still copied from this one. If you haven't, you just push Command C on this clip that's highlighted. You click back on this clip, and so then you just go Edit, Paste Attributes. There is a shortcut for it here, Command Shift V, and so you paste it. It's going to, you say Paste Attributes, you select which effects. Just make sure that it's only those, not any random crops or compositing or anything like that. And you say Paste. And so now the cool thing is even that shot is graded. And you can see the difference, like the wood in the background's disappearing more, her face has got some color, and so yeah, and then the same thing happens here. Edit, Paste Attributes, and paste. And so this shot, just for your information, that's before and after. So now I can actually see, if I bring up the angles again, I can actually see that this camera 4 is a little bit greener if you look carefully, and so is actually camera 2. It's a little bit greener than the other two angles, and I like these two tones. So what I'll do is I'll hop into the grade on camera 4, and I'll go into the color wheels, and I'll come down to where the hue and the tint was, and what I'll do is I'll just add some tint. So you can see I'm adjusting that one, and so I'll just now do it visually, and so this one will be a little bit more aggressive, But there we go, it's now a bit more balanced. And the same will happen for number 2. I'll hop into the original grade that I did, I'll hop into color wheels, and I'll just take this tint up a little bit. Not too much, but just balance it a bit, and actually the shot needs to be a little bit warmer as well. Not much. And so here we have our grades. That's the grading done. That's the grading done. And so it's time for the audio. Okay, so first things first with the audio is I'll jump in and EQ it. So
our faith.
the way you do that is you click the effects panel and you say all of video, and you're going to go equalizer, EQ, just EQ, and here you'll have channel EQ. I'll drop that on. Then what I'll follow that up with is compressor, which is a logic compressor, and I drop that on. After I have the logic compressor on, I put a adaptive limiter. I drop that on. I'm doing these in this process particularly, and you won't have this, but I use a thing called noise suppressor, and it's fine that you don't have it. And I'll take this and I'll drop that on. Okay, so now I can drop this down again because we're just going to work with the audio. And now I click here and I pop out the EQ for the audio, and I turn the analyzer on. So now when I play this audio, let's make sure it starts at the right place.
I'm going to just talk
What
to
I'm
you
going
about
to do though, is I'm going to turn the compressor, the adaptive limiter, and the noise suppressor off so that I'm only hearing the EQ work at the moment. Okay? I don't need to see any audio things for this at this point. I'm going to just put this on this screen so you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to play it out.
It will bring you much praise and glory and honor.
First thing is
when
high pass
Jesus
filter, always.
is revealed.
Take this and drag
so
it
this
up.
word precious means this: precious faith,
Okay,
valuable,
and then
costly,
obviously that doesn't sound good.
priceless, cherished, treasured, and prized.
That's not sounding good at
Our
all.
faith,
I'm making it
faith
dramatic
is
to hear
precious
what
to
I want
God,
to
because we
take
know
out.
that God
I want to take out
formed and
ugly
framed the
frequencies.
worlds by His faith. So it's a precious thing. It's something He values and treasures. It's something He prizes.
So I'm
it's
going to take
something
that.
He works
Take that
with.
frequency out
It's
briefly.
something
I don't
that
expect you to know
is
this
in Him that He has put in us. So faith
completely
is
right off the
treasured
bat. This is complicated stuff.
and precious to
I'm
God.
just searching for frequencies that I
Also,
don't
because
like.
it cost Him to send His Son to die for us and shed His blood so we can live in the fullness of salvation in faith. We can experience the fullness of what we've been redeemed from with faith and in faith.
And then I'll give it some honey.
It ought to be precious to us. If our faith that God has given to us is precious
The
to
same
Him,
thing. I
it
mean,
ought to be
visually
precious
speaking,
to
if you
us.
add
We
some
ought
of
to
this,
value
I'm
and
making it.
treasure and
I'm just giving it some
prize
dynamics
above other
and making it
things.
sound like her
Our
voice.
faith is
Once
precious.
that's done, I'm going to do a compressor.
1 Peter
Let me
1,
open it
18 and
up.
19 says
Bring it
this from
across
the
here.
King James.
I leave the
You were
auto gain
not
on
redeemed with
0
corruptible
dB.
things as silver and gold
And
from your vain
I'm just going to pull the
conversation
threshold
received by
back a bit
tradition
because
from
I
your
only want to
fathers,
compress
the
a
way we
little
used to
bit.
live.
And I
But verse
compress
19
5
says
to
this:
1.
but with the
And the makeup
precious
is 5 to
blood
1.
of Christ. So with the precious
I put this on
blood
auto.
of Christ paid a price
And so now you
so
can
that we
see
could
what's happening.
believe
I just
salvation,
need
the
to turn
fullness
this
of
back a bit
salvation,
because I can
and
see
with
it's
our
peaking
faith
here. I don't
obtain
want it to do that.
fullness of what we've been delivered from. And then the Message Bible says this, 1 Peter 1,
So, yeah, that's...
it is to be carried on between God and
so that's sounding good.
myself
I now
and
put an
God and
adaptive
yourself
limiter on it.
directly.
And
You're
I
not on this
limit this to
faith
-1.
journey independent and disconnected from God.
And then a
Faith,
noise
our faith is
suppressor,
precious and
I just
personal.
I add a little bit. That just
Personal
removes
involves
the
a
noise of
direct
the room.
relationship between two people who know each other. So your faith is personal and is supposed to be
So
conducted.
that's the audio. Yeah, that's the audio done. And so now it gets down to the cutting of the episodes. So what I do is now that the multicam is all set up, I can open my project, and I can take the Friday multicam and I can drop it in here. Right? What you need to do is you put your play head at the start and push 1, so that you make sure that when you start cutting, it has camera 1 on the screen. On the top left here, you must just make sure that you're enable video only switching. You're not wanting to enable audio and video, or just audio. You must make sure that it's using the same audio, but it's not it's not cutting the video and the audio. It's not cutting between the camera's audio internal reference audio. What you also need to do is, when this is in, you just need to make sure that your audio is selected. So sometimes in the multicam, it might be good practice on these clips over here. You can actually name this one angle 1. You can name this one angle 2. You can name this one angle 3, angle 4, and this one you can name audio. So when you go to when you're in your project, you can click on this clip and actually go here, and you can see you need to make sure that you click on audio here. You make sure that you're using your audio as the stuff. So now I know that the clip starts here.
Continuing to minister to you today on the force of faith.
Right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually zoom in here, because I don't need any of the clapper nonsense in our chatting. I just need to know where this starts. So
Hello.
for these episodes in particular, I'm keeping it very tight. So I cut here and I delete this all straight away. So actually this might not even be tight enough. Like I look for the in point.
Hello.
She looks weird in the first few frames there. So what I'll do is I'll actually make this even tighter.
Hello.
There we go. Because there's obviously a brief intro between it. And so now the cuts are like, I'm going to do these quickly, and I'm not going to watch the whole episode through for the sake of this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to we cut with the audio. So we're going to come up to 50 seconds here, where there's a nice gap in the audio. You can see here. I'll put the playhead here to switch, and I'm going to go
personal and powerful. So today I'm going to just talk to you.
And I look at the angles now over here, and I actually quite like angle 4 over here. So I'll put the playhead where I want to cut, and I'll push 4 on my keyboard. It then does the cut.
Precious, personal, and powerful.
It's a hard cut.
So today I'm going to just talk to you about precious. Precious.
And I'm going to cut back to camera 2 here. So now I have camera 2, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a cross dissolve there. So I just select the transitions here, and I go to cross dissolve.
Faith.
And so now we have a cool faith.
It is precious.
And that's a nice shot that we have got going over there.
It is especially precious to God. Let me just read you the scripture.
And I'm going to let this play out for another 50 seconds to a minute or so. So I'm going to hop ahead to like 1 minute 40, and I'm going to look, and I can see, oh, here it looks like she has a bit of a gap.
When Jesus is revealed.
So she's about to start on a new point here, so good time to have a quick cut. So I'm going to use camera 3, and preemptively
is revealed.
I'm just going to go.
So this word precious means this.
So I'm going to let
precious
it play.
Faith.
And I'm going to go back
valuable.
To quick cuts, no long holding. So that's that cut done.
Precious faith.
This camera's angle. So now I make a mental note, like the framing here. Pastor Sharon's, in this particular image, she should be looking into empty space. There's too much space behind her. So whoever is on this cam, I'll just remember, okay, the framing should be checked here in future episodes. You want her looking into empty space. I'll then hop over again, and I'll go another 40 to 50 seconds or whatever. I'm also watching, like as I skim through here, I'm watching the angles to see if anyone had any cool creative shots. And so I like camera 4 again. So over here, I'm just preemptively going to go into 4. This is a nice gap.
It's treasured and precious to God.
So I can't use this because Conrad decided. So I can't use this because Conrad decided to move at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm undo my cut, and I'm going to hop back to camera 3, and I'm going to play it through again.
Is treasured and precious to God, also because it cost him to send his son to die for us.
I'm going to go to 2
and shed his blood so
angle.
We can live
so I'm letting this one play out for a bit longer to let it finish her point.
In faith.
Go to 2.
We can experience the fullness of what we've been redeemed from.
So now I like Conrad's shot, so I'm going to go ahead hoping that he holds that shot for a while, and there I see that he changed quickly. So what I need to do is actually find a place where I can come in on 4 and go
Our
on 4
faith is precious.
and go back to 1. So this is a quick cut, and it's just a little quick filler. And so I just check the cut again.
Our faith is precious. 1 Peter 1.
There we go. And so that's that done. Let me just check that my OBS is still recording. Yeah, 40 minutes. Wowza. Once that's done, I will hop through the rest of the thing. I'm going to cut here, and I'll come back in.